If you're wondering why it seems like damage has gone insane in Greymoor and survivability seems so worse, then you're not alone in that thought. With the changes to healing getting reduced and resistances provided by some of the sets being cut in half, ZOS has really pushed us to rethink about builds in terms of defense. We can't anymore have passive resistances stacked up and go crazy on the damage part, while sustain was barely an issue before. Hi everyone, Monk here, and this time I bring you my Stamsorc build for Greymoor expansion. Now before I explain the build, I must point out to any new players who are aspiring to play Stamsorc in Battlegrounds or no CP campaign that it's a very different class than 3 other popular stamina choices, that is Dragon Knight, Warden or Necromancer. These classes have a lot of inbuilt sustain, passive damage reduction and use a lot of class skills which benefit from these passives. While on the other hand, Stamsorc doesn't, except for it has one thing which other classes don't, and that's what makes Stamsorc so unique: mobility. Stamsorc is one of the most mobile class in game, along with of course Nightblade. So we utilize this aspect of the class and make the best out of it even if it lacks in other departments. So without any delay, let's get into the build. And as always, if you do like the video or it helps you in any way, then please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Being new in YouTube community, your support will really help me a lot. Now to start with stats. I'm playing Imperial Stamsorc, and Imperial in general is a very good race for any class, but it works really well in this build because of its cost reduction passives to everything we do. And that includes ultimates, cost of blocking, roll dodge and any other skills in general. However, if you want a bit more damage, you can always go Orc, and for slightly more passive defense, Nord. Both are good choices and will work with the build. Now as you can see, we have almost 25,000 health and 24,000 stamina, which might not seem a lot, but with 2800 stam recovery and cost reduction passive from Imperial, you will never have any problem with your resources. And with almost 1300 mag recovery, we can have plenty of dark deal for sustain and of course to streak out of sticky situations. 1050 health recovery is also decent, and it goes up to 2000 when we hit below 50% of our max health. You'll see more about it in the gear section, so stay tuned. We got about 4900 weapon damage on sword and board bar and about 5100 on two-hand bar, which is decently good for any stam build. Now these are completely self-buffed stats and without continuous attack, which adds another 20% to our weapon damage and recovery. I have seen the weapon damage go as high as 5400 and recovery to about 3200. So as you can see, the build has really dense stats. Now the part where it lacks a few things and how we make up for it. As I mentioned in the beginning about active defense, you can see we don't have a high general resistances or crit resistance because this build is about actively avoiding damage by roll dodge, streaking away and using line of sight. And that's the best part of the build because it pushes you to actively engage in the combat rather than just standing at a place and spamming I-win button from distance. Now let's have a look at the skills. Our main bar is sword and board with the two hand on the back bar, and I will explain why we have so. The first skill we are using is Camo Hunter to give us major savagery for extra crit as well as minor berserk, which gets progged more often than you can think. The next skill is Vigor or primary heal. Try to keep this up all the time as much as possible. At low health combined with almost 2000 health recovery, it mostly is good enough to get us out of tricky situations. Next skill is Invasion, which is our main gap closer as well as a stun, and I prefer this morph because it gives you a longer duration of stun compared to a tiny shield from the other morph. Next in line is Deep Slash, our main spammable, as well as it debuffs enemy player with minor maim and reduces their movement speed. Like I said before, active defense, and this skill directly reduces incoming damage by 15% before even it reaches us. Also, since the skill doesn't have a cast time, that means given the situation you can spam it as much as you like, and at about 2200 it doesn't cost much either. The fifth skill on the bar is Hurricane, our main AoE damage skill, and also passively granting us about 2% weapon damage as well as major resolve for 5000 physical and spell resistances. The trick with this skill is do not cast it early, as its best damage output comes only in the last 5 seconds. And for the ultimate on this bar, we have Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Decent damage as well as passively giving us 3% extra weapon damage. You also have the option to slot Atronach here, which will give you even more health and stam recovery, or Spell Wall, which will be really good as a defensive ulti in case you ever need it. On the back bar, first skill we have is Rally, and I prefer it over Crit Surge because not only it gives the same buff of Major Brutality but also gives us 10% stamina recovery. Of course, it's flexible for you to choose between either skill, both are good and work in their own way. Next skill is a Streak, our main getaway skill, and depending on which morph you use, both will function slightly different, as this morph can be used offensively as well, while the other morph is really good at escaping. I have recently been testing with Ball of Lightning and somehow I'm leaning a bit more towards that, so play with both and see which one suits your playstyle better. Next skill is Dark Deal, our bread and butter for sustain. When in a pinch, streak, line of sight and spam Dark Deal till you are good to engage again. Next we have is Executioner, one of the best if not the best finisher in game. When enemy at low health, spam it till they drop. Amazing damage, as well as from the 2-hand passive we get another 20% stamina recovery for 10 seconds after finishing the enemy off. So go ham when you can. Next skill is Shuffle to give us snare immunity as well as 25% damage reduction against AoE skill. Nothing more to be said about this. And the ultimate that we are using on this bar is Onslaught. Hands down amazing damage and follow up by giving us same amount of penetration our opponent had in resistance. Most of the time the skill alone will finish off the opponents, but if someone survives, couple of Executioner will finish the job. Next we look at the sets. After experimenting with more than 20 set combinations such as Engine Guardian, Bloodspawn, Valley Essence Thief, Sheer Venom, Dragon Guard, Cyrodiil Board, Venomous Smite, Titanborn, and of course New Moon Acolyte, and some I can't even remember. The set combination I finally settled on has a really good mix of damage and sustain. So to begin with, we are using Velodreth as our monster mask. One piece gives us weapon damage and the second gives us our opening burst, while using Invasion as gap closer followed by Deep Slash, and while Hurricane is on, this set never fails to proc. An enemy player being stunned or slowed down, they have a very rare chance of avoiding this proc. Most of the time our opening combo we go straight to back bar and execute. Other options you can use is Bloodspawn, which even with its potency cut in half is still okay-ish set for defense, and second option would be Engine Guardian for even more sustain, but in my opinion that is an overkill. Selene is also a good damage set, but I have noticed most of the time it's quite easy to avoid the Telegraph, and hence I prefer Valley. The next set is of course no brainer, New Moon Acolyte, the best damage set in game right now. Yes, it has a 5% cost increase, but with Imperial cost reduction passive and amount of stamina recovery we have, you won't even know it's there. And now the last set is the new Eternal Vigor set from Greymoor. Tons of recovery for all three, be it mag, stam or health. This was one of the last sets I tried, and after using it, I just couldn't go back to any other. This set alone is the reason as to why so much investment towards damage was made possible. We are using 3 jewelry and weapons from this set. The only catch however is that the set is a heavy armor set, and that means the jewelry needs to be transmuted from healthy to twice infused and 1 robust. So if you don't have transmute crystals, then either farm them or other alternative would be using Bone Pirate. You can use any combination of these sets as long as you have both of them on both bar active and in a 5-1-1 combination of medium, light and heavy. Try to make sure that the chest is heavy to get the most resistances out of it. All big pieces are with prismatic enchant and small ones with stamina. Jewelry I'm using 2 infused, 1 with weapon damage enchant and second with stamina recovery, and the third jewel is robust with weapon damage glyph. For the 2-hand weapon we have Nunhorn Maul with Berserker enchant, and on sword and board we have Nunhorn Sword with Velfix Shield along with another prismatic enchant. Glyph for sword doesn't matter as we are using double dot poisons, and for the food we are using Artane Broth. And potions I use Tripods and Stamina Immovable Pods, but depending on situations. Now on the end note, I would like to give a few tips about the gameplay, and that is, it's not a tank build, so don't play it like one. It's a kind of guerrilla warfare style build, so go in, do the burst and get out. The longer you stay in middle of fight, higher the chances of you being wrecked. Second, if you're low on health or resources, get away from the fight. Find a tree, a rock or anything to get out of the line of sight from enemy player, recover and then engage again. And last, more than often you'll come along against some players who are just built to tank and heal. If you find them, move on. Don't waste your time or resources on them. These builds can easily eat up your burst and you'll only be beating your head against a wall and get nothing out of it. So with that said, I hope you'll give the build a try and spend some time figuring out how it works, because what works for me is not a guarantee that it will work for you. We all have different brain and hand coordination. So try to adapt or improvise the build as per your game style, as it's you who will be in the battlefield at the end of the day. So good luck and see you soon in the next video.